Hey everybody, this is DM Mike, and you're watching the last and final campaign diary for Hoard of the Dragon Queen, Chapter 8. And we're all wrapped up. We are done. We played last Saturday. We played on an off night. Typically we play on Friday nights, but we had this huge gap of time between the last time we played and the final time we needed to play. And we were like, hey, we don't want to wait 3 weeks to play one last session. So we went on an off night. It worked really, really well. We started at 7:30 at night and played to about 11:30, so or 11 or something like that. So three and a half hours to really finish things off. And you know what? I'm happy. I'm happy and glad as a DM that I went in there and I cut and chopped and edited and karate chopped 98% of the things that were going on in there.
Hey, okay.
Because I felt like, as I said in the previous ones, that energy and drama needed to take priority. And running around bit by bit in Dungeon Crawl just was zero interest for me. I really wanted to get to that final encounter.
I may not be the best ninja. I may not be one with the universe. But I will tell you this. No one messes with my brother! Everybody was...
So we started the session off right when they met Logothicus. They made the deal, and here was the trick. Logothicus said, look, we got to do this in tandem. We got to do this parallel with each other. No one can escape. You have to wipe out Asbaroth and Rezimir and his Thayan warriors, which I used. I switched them out for this particular encounter. But the Thayan warriors, while I go with my personal guard, will take out Linathan. That's the key thing. And we need to do this simultaneously at the same time. If anybody escapes, well, the treachery will be known. Right? So that was the big thing that night. They knew they had to finish the job, right? So we started with, first of all, the radio drama, which will be up. I think it's already up, or maybe I think I've already recorded, I just haven't uploaded yet. But we played that first, and this is where I began to blend some things that I had crafted for Star Wars, or not just that. I mean, you can watch the Star Wars films and you'll see how you have a lot of parallel action. Like you've got, Luke over here doing this, but you also then have Vader doing this, and then out here you have the X-Wings, and out here you have Han Solo and Leia doing all kinds of stuff, right? So all this stuff is happening simultaneously.
Watch yourself, Wedge. 3 from above. Red 3, red 2, pull in. Got it.
But here's how I did it. They walked into Wrath's chambers, and we immediately got into it. I had music set up for this, ready to go. Matter of fact, I used music from The Mummy, the 1990 version with, I think, Brandon Fraser and all them, which is probably the really superior version, if you ask me. But I used that music in there. I wanted that different type of style music, and I only used it sparingly. I had one track. That's it, guys. We're going to talk about music and how to use it, but that's another video, because now that these are coming to an end, I got to have a little more stuff on my channel, but this is something I really wanted to talk about. But I had this one track ready to go, and then from there, we kicked off the adventure. We kicked off the final combat, and you know what? Less is more, and that's what I went with this time. It's easy to flood the battlefield with a ton of enemies, and I felt like I didn't want to do this. First of all, I didn't want the encounter dragged out, and you're trying to wipe out 15, 20 different cultists just because they happen to be in the room with Rezimir and Asbaroth, who were my last two. Wrath wisely did not stick around. He left. He left. He knew he gave it to Asbaroth to deal with these heroes. He had better things to do, and rightly so. He's one of the leaders. He's not going to stick around to handle some peons, if I may say so. He left it to Asbaroth and Rezimir. He felt like they were capable of doing this. But of course, they both died, but he thought he was, both of them were. Anyway, so he left, and I actually switched out all the creatures and things that may have been in there. I didn't really look at it very well because I had nixed the dungeon crawl. I decided to use Thayan warriors. Now, the Thayan warriors was something I came across by accident. I actually have the campaign book, the hardcover book for 5th edition for the Yawning Portal. And I remember, I don't know why I was looking in there. I was flipping through the back, looking at the monsters, and there were these Thayan warriors that kind of stuck out to me, and they were there. They actually guard the Doom Vault or something like that. I can't remember. My lore's all wrong here. Don't really care, but they do something that's important. And so they are actually there to protect Red Wizards. It kind of reminded me of the Red Guards who protect the Emperor, like these kind of special, unique guards. And so I only had 8 on the board, and they actually kicked some ass, if I may say so.
So sorry.
They really were pretty formidable. I gave them their max hit points. I've used the Thayan Warriors stats directly. They had pack tactics, and they would switch from range to long range, and they were pretty formidable. And I had a good time actually using them because they were kicking butt. Now, granted, they all died at the end, but they really held out to the very, very end. And long story short, it was a great battle. You can see here the map. I'll put it up. You can see it's a wide room with lots of space for people. And everybody was, it allowed for everybody to, including the enemy, to go ranged if they wanted to, hide behind obstacles, and also run right into each other. And we did a lot of that. The enemies and the heroes were just back and forth moving around this area. Probably not my best map, but I just wanted this open terrain for people to move around it and not be so hemmed in and right in each other's faces. So it was important to do that. Now here's what I did that was a little bit different. And I explained this in a radio drama, which will probably be coming out before or after this. This was the tricky part. So I had my DM screen, everything kind of lined up there, all the initiatives. And when I got to round 3, we got to the end of the round, I played a snippet of a radio drama because I felt like it was important that they hear what's going on with Linathan and the giant, because I was, they're in there fighting. Well, what's going on over here? Is Blagothgus, is he pulling through? Is he killing Linathan? And so at the end of each round, as we went across the DM screen, I would play this 1-minute clip. And it really worked. I mean, I was not sure about this, as I will state in the radio drama. I'm repeating myself a little bit here, but I wasn't too sure about it. And it actually added to the battle. It added to the dynamic. And they knew while they were in there fighting, they could hear what Linathan and this Blagothgus and his guards were up to at the time. And I left a lot of things ambiguous. So the radio drama would end suddenly when someone was getting hit or the dragon was biting down on something and you wouldn't know, oh God, did one of the giants just die, or did they actually kill Linathan? So that was actually really, really good. So the radio drama interspersed in the middle of combat was very, very effective. This is something I reserve for Star Wars, but if something like that's going on, I think from now on in the future, I will continue to use that method. But you know what? Everybody died.
I'm so sorry.
No, not the heroes. Actually, our only hero. Now, everybody was getting hit. There were so many times people had to heal. They were down to like their last, they were below level, 10 hit points. Many, many times, potions had to be used. Spells had to be burned off to heal. It was very narrow and very close for everybody, just about everybody, the entire time. Mortimer, who has survived the entire campaign. The man has barely been hit. I mean, there were a couple times towards the end where he was actually really starting to take damage, which was fitting, I think, for the story. But the man has never been hit. The man has never hit 0. And he dropped to 0 hit points and almost lost his character the last and final night. I was kind of amazed by that. Everybody else was doing okay, and everybody else is usually the ones who drop. But the one guy who never dropped finally dropped, and he was surrounded by 2 other Thayan warriors who just took advantage of him, climbed up on these hex steps that he was hiding on and just walloped him. He tried to jump and get away from it and just rolled a pathetic acrobatics check and just plummeted to the ground, went prone, and at that moment, 2 Thayan warriors above him threw down javelins and took his last remaining hit points. And the problem was he was all the way at the back end of the map. Everybody else was at least 3 moves away from him. They would have to dash twice in 2 different rounds to get to him. And he was over, maybe I'll put it up, he was over this little tiny corner. And you couldn't get to him. And the problem is, too, nobody, of course, the players can see him, but the characters cannot. They're too busy fighting their things, so everybody doesn't know if Mortimer's up, if he's alive, or where the hell he even is, right? So it was one of the worst places he could have died. But you know what? I got outsmarted at the end. I really did. The person who plays Althea always is outsmarting me. I feel like I almost got it, and then she'll do something that's like, okay, that works. I'll roll with that. I think it was Pax who did the killing blow. I think either to Rezimir or Asbaroth. I can't remember now exactly who did what. But it was, it was a joyous moment. They'd taken out the last guy. I really wanted Asbaroth to live. I did. I mean, I felt like he had a reason to live. I liked his character voice in the radio drama, so I liked his intellect. As a matter of fact, he did try to get away. I didn't let him sit around. and wait to be cannon fodder. Like I really wanted him to get away. Well, the book talks about you have these ice walls and you could tap it and there it goes and you can leave. Well, I had that in the map. In the back end, next to the altar is where that thing was. And as Asbroth saw the Thayans drop and the Rezimir drop, and he realized he only had like 3 or 4 warriors left. That was it. He was done. He had cast Fireball to try to slow him down and Fog to obscure vision, but he had to get out of there. And here's what happened. He tapped the wall. There it goes, right? And that was the end of his turn. He had done something. Maybe he had shot off Fireball. I don't remember what it was. And so the next turn goes to Althea. And Althea has summoned 2 wolves onto the battlefield. And one of them was really, really close to the wizard, but the wizard was flanked by his guards, and they were just keeping these wolves away. Well, he goes out to the balcony, and out there is a wyvern. And the wyvern is attached to the balcony by like a leather strap, right? Just kind of in waiting, like you would tie a horse to a stake, it's just waiting for him to, if he needs it. Well, he starts to make his way out there. And then the next turn is Althea's. Well, she takes one of the wolves. Doesn't take a, oh God, I can't remember the action now when you leave combat. It's just completely disengage. She just took the hit, didn't even bother with that, ran out with the wolf to the wyvern, had it chomp through the leather strap, easy to do, right? And then had the wolf intimidate the wyvern. And the wyvern was not necessarily scared of it, but just like, what the hell's going on? Bouncing back and forth like a cat would, like suddenly here comes a dog, it's just like being an ass for no reason. So the wyvern actually ended up being scared off. And this left Asbroth with nowhere to go.
I'm so sorry.
It was a move that I didn't anticipate. I thought this was, okay, here we go. He has his escape hatch, but it was completely ruined. And I knew at that point, it doesn't matter what I have, Asbroth is dead. What's he going to do? Run, try to get across the battlefield and go hide in the castle somewhere? I mean, yes, he had the invisibility spell, but I still felt like that was just, what's he going to do? It's going to wear off eventually. I'm not going to have the characters run around trying to find him. So I just felt like this is it. And so he fought to the end. The Thayan warriors slowly got closer to him, all 3 of them. And I think it was Pax that did the killing blow. I had Blagothkus come in, and he lost one of his guards. And when his other guard was injured, and so was Blagothkus, and we had the quick conversation. We were wrapping up pretty quick. And he said he would take him where he needed to go, but he needed to go back and rally the giants. He had made a mistake, and now he wanted to be their ally. And unfortunately, Lenathan had gotten away, so the treachery would be known. So the last radio drama was only about 3 minutes and 50 seconds, and that'll have its own video. And it actually took snippets and snapshots of the final moments, or what was going on in the realm as they're up there fighting the castle. It was kind of inspired by games like Shadow of Chernobyl, Stalker, how it kind of showed, or Pripyat, how it showed all this, your consequences, positive and negative, that happened. So I felt like that was a really good way to end it. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot over the past year of playing. But I enjoyed the end. I like how it ended with the radio drama. I like the idea of the interspersed radio drama in the middle of combat. It was effective. It worked. I'm proud of it. I liked nixing a chunk of, really 99% of the last dungeon crawl. I felt like it was the right move. And it was entertaining. It was very, very entertaining. It was entertaining night. And I love the nights where things just go by really fast. You don't know 3 hours have gone by. And the combat was, there was a lot of kineticism. People were very excited when they finally dropped Rezimir and they finally outsmarted Asbroth. Good times, right? Just good times during combat. But it sucks to end. It kind of does, As a DM, you're like, I could take a break. I could stop thinking about Dungeons and Dragons for a little bit. And I have in a lot of ways, even though 24 hours later, I picked up Rise of Tiamat, started looking through it, but it does kind of stink. And what we're going to do, though, I think is, again, effective for the campaign, is I really want real-world time to pass before we get back into Rise of Tiamat. We're probably not going to pick up Rise of Tiamat till July. That's what I'm thinking. I want, the last few weeks I had in April to just chill. May, chill a little bit more, and then maybe June start picking up the book and really getting into what I need and start all the prep work, and then possibly pick up in July and see how long that takes us. But I thought it was important that real time passes for us, because it'll feel like a new season, right? And that's how like I've said this before, I see D&D as a television series, and you have those huge breaks between seasons, and that's how I wanted to see this. That's how I want it to feel. And a lot of things are going to change, that's for sure. I've already started writing notes about what's going to happen to Fulam, Bayleet, and other characters that may have just showed up for a moment, but will have prominent roles coming up. Also, they have the dragon mask they took from Rezimir, and of course any effects that were found on Asbroth and any other warriors. Something else I need to send out to them through private messages. All that to say, I'm looking forward to Rise of Tiamat. I'm looking forward to how the next portion unfolds. I'm excited to see what are the radio dramas going to be, because they're reactions to players, right? So what are those going to look like? What are the new maps going to look like? Because I most likely will not use a lot of the maps for Rise of Tiamat. I'll just make them up on my own. I'm excited by all that. Like, that's a lot of creativity on the horizon that I'm looking forward to. So anyway, guys, that is it. We're done. Now I'm going to do some chapter tips. I don't know how effective they're going to be for you for chapter 7 and 8, because, like I said, nixed most. So I will just tell you what I did. Perhaps you can find inspiration for them. And perhaps what I've done will work for your group if they don't like dungeon crawls or you want a different feeling going on. But I think after this, there'll be a radio drama, I think, on another map, I believe, maybe 4 after this. But I do want to talk about music. And I think that's a big one that I want to get into. So that'll be the next, eventually that video will be coming out. But I've talked about this on many campaign diaries, but I, again, overshot myself. Like I was just committed to too much stuff. I didn't have time to make that video, but now I do. But guys, if you have stayed with us since day one, you've watched all the campaign diaries, I appreciate it. I really, really do. Sometimes I feel like I'm just talking to myself, and maybe that's fine. It's a diary, right? You're kind of talking to yourself, and so you can remember what you did. But I do appreciate it. If you watched all the radio dramas, appreciate that too. It's kind of hard to, I think, find yourself on YouTube when you're not monetized, and I don't plan to ever monetize the channel or anything. So you're buried, and I don't know how far this channel will ever reach, if at all. So it's very hard to do. But if you stuck with this and you've watched the campaign diaries, the map diaries, and the radio dramas, I appreciate it. I'm sure my players appreciate it. But let me tell you, there is a lot more to come, and we'll see what happens with Rise of Tiamat. And then after that, maybe we'll do another book. So there's quite a few videos and things to come. But anyway, guys, that is it. I will wrap up. Thank you for sticking with us. And you know what? There will be more videos, and I will see you in the next one.